Hello. As you know now, my name is Megan Piñero. Growing up, I was your typical, energetic, happy little girl. I was exceedingly creative to the point that it got me in trouble at times, excitable, and completely, utterly authentic, with no care for others' opinions. I loved to learn and did well in school, despite the fact that I was not the best at paying attention in class. At 11 years old, something in me changed. Be it puberty, changing the chemical composition of my brain, or merely the changing circumstances of school, adding stress, I began to develop symptoms of depression and anxiety. I would cry almost daily, lash out at my family often, and isolate myself. To escape the numb pain and crippling fear of the outside world, I began to daydream, building a fantasy world in my head where not only was I this superior version of myself, but I also had a successful and exciting life. I lost all my motivation to exist in the real world, and as such, stopped my constant creation. My once proud habits of drawing and crafting became a rarity. To escape the anxiety took hold of my relationships, and I became desperate to hold on to anyone who appeared to tolerate and enjoy my existence. I became the therapist to others, leading to abuse of such privileges and harassment from my male friends. I became distrusting due to it, and then began to shrink my friend group and distrust men. My schoolwork took a drastic hit in quality, especially when I hit high school. Despite all the clear symptoms, due to the misunderstandings of teenage girls and depression, it took until I was 14 in October of my freshman year of high school to get diagnosed with depression and anxiety. It also took until August of this year, 2021, to get diagnosed with ADHD. Explain my academic difficulties. I began therapy my freshman year, and things had to take a turn for the worse before they could get better. I had been avoiding thinking the whole time prior through the daydreaming and constant absorption of books and media. So when I was finally forced to address the issues in therapy, it hurt. I hadn't realized just how deep the self hatred ran, just how loud that vile voice in my head that told me just how horrible and worthless I am was. I typically was fairly good at recognizing my suicidal thoughts as me just wanting to be out of my current situation, just wanting control. Unfortunately, during the process of healing, reopening the wounds of self hatred revealed some truly suicidal thoughts. It was scary just how my mind could come up with a plan to end it all. I made sure to keep myself away from the most dangerous sources of my ideations. I also dealt with thoughts of self harm. I had already attempted it unknowingly back in the 8th grade, which for context, I had done by trying to snap myself with a rubber band every time when I thought I became annoying to stop myself and spoke too much about myself. I truly thought that I had no real personality or anything that I exhibited of such was abhorrent. That turned out to be a product of my ADHD, by the way. I don't mean to be self centered, I just try to relate to others' experiences by sharing my own similar ones, drawing connections, and I do it a lot. Nonetheless, the self harm and suicidal ideations became a hindrance, especially when they affected my performance socially. In fact, I had to quit a club once because on the way back from a long field trip my freshman year, I became racked with thoughts of self harm and fully planned to go through with it when I got home. I sat there on that bus, having moved away from my friends, in an effort to be amicable to someone who requested move, with my desperate desire to be liked shining through in that moment, and let the darkness hide my tears as I sat in fear of my own mind, in disgust at myself. I began to take antidepressants at age 15, February of my freshman year. After beginning them, my life changed for the better. My world became colorful once again, and I had more energy. I was happier, I felt more emotions, and I was more motivated. The medication helped me to absorb the concepts that I was learning in therapy, as beforehand, it just wasn't sinking in. I was too ill before to be able to help myself. The voice was too strong. With the medication helping to manage the imbalance, the voice stepped away for a while. so that the therapist could actually get through to me. For the next 2 years after that, I made steady progress until the pandemic happened. I stopped my medication early in 2020 and entered a relationship that just did not work well for me or my mental state. The isolation took a toll on me as well. I began to become self-hating once again, particularly focusing on my physical appearance this time. I felt unworthy and unattractive. It felt as if I had taken several steps backwards in my progress, and it was devastating. My focus and social skills continued to deteriorate throughout the rest of 2020, as did my self-confidence until the relationship ended. I moved on and realized that I did not deserve to be treated the way that I was. It sent me into a boost where I channeled all my emotion into building myself up once again. I became very confident in myself, both physically and internally, also partly due to me beginning to take medication again. Unfortunately, this did not transfer over to my academic abilities and focus. I did Lee Home Connect for my junior year of high school, and it cost me my honor roll placement. I could not focus for the life of me, and even when I had my desk fully set up and prepared to avoid distractions, or as many as I could without kicking out my newly adopted Siamese cat. It became even more difficult than it already had been to get out of bed, bordering on impossible at times. Nothing felt real, so it was incredibly easy for me to just miss classes often and ignore my emails once the work began to pile up. I no longer enjoyed my classes and as such struggled to get any work done as I could only rarely pay attention. Putting me in online school set me up for failure, but I also was not willing to put my family at risk or myself, so I tried to suffer through. It was insanely difficult. The more work I let pile up, the more I daydreamed about whatever my latest hyperfixation was at the time. Even when I tried to force myself to focus in class, I'd end up lost quickly. I had no one to spend time with other than my family and my best friend. And although I have other friends, I struggle to remember to text or even have the energy to engage in conversation. I began to cry often once again, and school became a deeply upsetting ordeal. I'd have breakdowns on an almost weekly basis, and I nearly failed a course. All of this occurred without having access to the accommodations I needed due to my ADHD, but had no access to because of just how difficult it is to diagnose in women, let alone the fact that I was almost an adult at the time. Throughout the 2020-2021 school year, I suffered so much that when the year ended, I needed an entire month to recover fully. Then, of course, school returned quite quickly, and although I was distressed at the prospect of going through the constant confusion, overworking, and frustration all over again, the fears became greatly lessened with the social interaction brought about by my marching band camp. I grew excited to try again when I saw my classes and had more hope for the future. I switched medications as well to make my dosage easier, and the medication has worked well for my mood and anxiety so far. As of now, I'm still struggling, especially in getting my work done and focusing. But I'm hoping now that I have my accommodations sorted out through my new official diagnosis, and with therapy now shifting to cover ADHD, that I will be able to turn it around and do better. I know what I'm capable of. I just truly need help and support. I need understanding. Either way, improvement has happened and will continue to happen. Socially, I've improved drastically. I don't know why I have less social anxiety, considering just how little interaction I got throughout the quarantine, but nonetheless, I feel fairly good about my social life. I try to spend time with people often, and although I'm still quite bad at responding to texts, I try my best to keep up. And emotionally, I feel pretty good. I love having friends, going out, doing clubs. I love just being a teenager. I still daydream a lot, which is a constant issue that causes my lack of sleep quite often, but it has improved and is more so a processing and entertainment thing. I'm proud of myself no matter what. I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm actually still doing things. That's crazy for me. I will continue to work on my trust, relationships, energy, focus, and general life, but I have faith in myself. I didn't shoot for the moon to hit the stars, and I'm not giving up today. And for those of you in the audience who have felt what I've described today, or who know people who have shown similar symptoms, go get help. It was the best thing to happen to me. And even though the healing process is tough, it's worth it. I could not fathom where I'd be today without the support of my family, friends, doctors, psychiatrists, and therapists. There is no shame in healing and in improvement. Thank you for your time, and I hope you can learn from my experiences.